Hello and welcome to this channel. This is the Eradicator, and today I have something very special for you as I am going to review the remaster of what is perhaps my favorite game trilogy of all time. I'm going to review for you, my friends, Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy. And for those who know me, you know I'm a PC gamer, so of course I will review its PC version, which is quite an event in itself as it marks the first time the legendary IP makes its way to this platform. Now, we need to understand it's been a long time since the original release of these games. In fact, the original Crash Bandicoot was released on the PlayStation in 1996, and it was mind-blowing. This was back then the first time we really had a 3D platformer, and it was seen as a window to the future, heralding what was yet to come if you were a gamer. All of a sudden, the 8 and 16-bit platforms of the past, as awesome as they were, had been passé. People no longer wanted MIDI music in their game, and ugly square pixels had to be replaced by colorful, textured polygons. It was a revolution. Now, over 20 years later, computing power has reached levels gamers back then couldn't even dream of. Game graphics are, for example, far beyond any 3D rendered cutscenes featured during that period, and there is an ongoing trend to restore or remaster all the games of that generation that have become less and less attractive due to their aging visuals. This has been the case for the Age of Empires series, the original StarCraft, and the ancient Crash Bandicoot games we are going to talk about today. As far as remasters go, we lately noticed three trends that have taken different approaches. I would say there is the lazy approach that just consists of re-recording the musical scores and allowing the display of the game in higher resolution. StarCraft Remaster! There's also the total graphical refurbishment approach, like the Age of Empires Definitive Edition, or a complete rebuild of the game, like the one we have right now with Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy. So, let's get to the point, and yes, Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy looks great. In fact, it's a real pleasure to be able to play Crash Bandicoot in high definition with modern graphics. Is it revolutionary? No. Is it homogeneous? No. Some levels look absolutely amazing, while some give the impression of being flavorless fillers, but so was it with the original games. The gameplay, however, is still the same. Crash has exactly the same moves, the same strengths and weaknesses, and follows the same evolution as within the original trilogy. The devs have not tried to alter the gameplay experience in any shape or form, and while purists will be pleased, newcomers will be troubled by the difficulty of the games, especially Crash 2. And yes, games were much harder back in the days. Or by the fact Crash acts or feels differently from one game to another. One example being the strange color filter featured in Crash 2 that was brought back in Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy. I personally hoped it would not have returned, but the devs decided to provide us with the same authentic experience, and I respect them for that. Another obvious feature aficionados will notice is the amount of details put into the characters, especially the bosses. It may not seem that important, but we now can clearly distinguish their facial animations, either during the mini cutscenes that come before each fight, or during the fight themselves, and this, to me, adds a certain depth and intensity that I can't remember having felt 20 years ago. The boss characters no longer feel like super enemies that just want to crush you, but feel more like characters that have a purpose, and that in itself changes the perspective we have of these boss fights. The next huge strength of the trilogy is how it sounds. As mentioned earlier, everything was re-recorded to adapt the audio experience to modern standards, and the result is simply flawless. One could regret that the original voice actor for Dr. Neocortex did not reprise his role, though. However, the voice actor of the last episodes did, and I suppose that this choice was made for continuity purposes. The original score is now available in Full HD too and feels epic as soon as you open the game and hear the series' original theme music. Everything feels refreshed, from the sound of the explosions to rain effects. Fire sounds are terrifying. Vehicles sound like they are just here, and even crashes or Coco's mounts feel like they have been given more attention as the rest of the game did. I just love how Coco's baby tiger purrs. The one thing that I find questionable in this remaster are the game controls for mouse and keyboards, which I found odd and hard to master. While using AWSD for direction seems rather logical, I don't understand why the attacks are done by mouse. It would have been more logical to use the keyboard to fully emulate a PlayStation controller. And yes, you can customize your key, but the whole process takes time and may have to be redone after every major update. Overall, Crash Bandicoot and Sane Trilogy was an amazing surprise, and I was delighted to be brought back to my teenagehood for 30-ish hours. I actually could have spent over 100 hours if I had wanted to be a completionist. The original experience has been reproduced to the perfection, and is finally bringing the series to different platforms, including PC, which is definitely going to broaden its audience, which is in itself quite promising for the future. We know Activision plans to give Crash Team Racing, the series' Fun Kart Racer, the same treatment, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. And so I'm going to close this review by giving this game a final mark, which is going to be a 9 out of 10, eradication complete, a really enjoyable experience, and I really highly recommend. That's all for today's video, guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you really like what you saw, or also hit that like button, drop a comment, that's really helping the channel. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. This is Eradicator. I'm signing out.